In the future, is there a prohibition that you can only have one child? That's why when a couple finds out they're going to have their second child, they decide to cross the border and escape to Mexico. That's why today the fortress. If you enjoy the videos, support the channel by liking, subscribing, and enabling notifications. It's free and really helps me keep growing. Let's get started. The story is set in the near future, in an apocalyptic 2018. Having many children is considered a real crime. So John and Karen, our leading couple, try to escape to the neighboring country. To cross the border, they have to go through a rigorous process, starting with the fact that they have a barcode tattooed on their arms that serves as an identifier. They also check their suitcases and put Karen on a scanner to see if she is pregnant. Does everything go well, or so it seems? Because just at the last second, one of the officers realizes that the woman is wearing a vest to be able to pass the scanner. They quickly flee with all the police in pursuit. John sacrifices himself and gets arrested to prevent his wife from being caught. They take him to the fortress, a maximum security underground prison located in the middle of a desert. On the way, we learn that our protagonist will have to spend 31 years in there. Moreover, his firstborn passed away soon after birth. That's why he was so excited for the birth of his second child. Anyway, they arrive at prison and a robotic voice directs them where to go. And they get to a machine that inserts a chip into their stomach. This chip, in addition to identifying them, forces them to follow the rules of the place, mainly the yellow and red lines. This means that if they cross the yellow line, they will feel a lot of pain, but if they continue and reach the red line, they will die. The first person to break the rules suffers from claustrophobia. In a fit of madness, he reaches the red line and dies before the crowd. John and Nino, a young man who just arrived at the prison, are assigned together and led to their cell. There are only 2 beds there, but there are 3 more guys. One of them begins to complain but relents when threatened with torture, ultimately accepting the newcomers. This is not going to be cheap for them, because the guy asks them to pay for being there. Otherwise, they'll face his dangerous friend. He ends the talk saying he needs to sleep. The bald guy keeps bothering them and asks Nino to accompany him during the night. The boy ignores him and they all go to rest. There, our protagonist starts having wet dreams about his girlfriend. But the prison officials have the technology to see his thoughts, so they activate the chip because that kind of dreams is forbidden. The next day they have to work. Here we meet a man who serves the prison because he tried to escape. As punishment, they erased his memory so he would be like a zombie. Suddenly they start hearing cries for help, and when they go to see where it's coming from, turns out the bald guy and his friend were trying to catch Nino. Despite the numerous prisoners, only John assists him. The problem is that the robot controlling the fortress separates them and puts them in a prison that only allows them to stand. His punishment will end when Nino trusts whoever started the fight. The bad guy threatens to kill him if he speaks. Once again, our protagonist sacrifices himself for others' good and takes the blame. Director Poe summons him to his office for this reason. Here we see that Bram, another of Zelda's colleagues, is very close to the director and practically his personal assistant. However, the most significant revelation is that John was a member of the military unit known as the Black Berets. In fact, he was one of the best soldiers in the entire history of the army. Poe directly tells the protagonist that Karen is in jail, skipping the unmentioned topic as requested, since they managed to catch her just before she crossed the border. This puts him in his place, so he doesn't think he can do whatever he wants, just because he was a soldier. John returns to the others, and when lunchtime comes, he tries to get information from Bran about where the women's pavilions are. The man refuses, but John insists until his companion finally tells him. Karen is in her cell when her companion tells her she feels her baby. The protagonist tries to calm her down because they both would like to be mothers, but they know their children will be taken away from them. That moment has already arrived for her companion, and some men try to take her to the operating room. The woman resists, but in the end, she can't do anything. On the other hand, John starts fighting with a guy who was bothering Nino, but he brings him to the brink of death over and over again. He escapes and fights on a bridge from which he falls. He resists for a while until the bridge begins to shrink. The protagonist finds the strength to leave the other person hanging. Despite the director's orders to kill his opponent, John ignores him and saves the man. All the prisoners start shouting his name as if they were his admirers. The celebration only lasts a few seconds because the director sends the machine that controls the chips to finish John's job. The man's stomach explodes, and John's chip, along with those of other prisoners, are activated. Everyone is forced back to their cells. Before being taken to isolation, John finds the dead guy's chip and gives it to Nino. They bring the couple together to make Karen tell John to be less rebellious. But this doesn't work, and they start to torture him. They put him in a machine that spins him around and causes him horrendous hallucinations. They do this to him for 3 days. We see the director telling Karen that she can stop the torture under a couple of conditions, which basically involve her living with him to keep him company. Initially reluctant, she agrees after seeing his wife is near death. They take out John, and we find out that the device they put him in is the memory eraser. The protagonist becomes zombie-like and changes from their former self. On her part, Karen tries to find a way to help him and discreetly spies on Poe, trying to trick him to gain access to the control cabin. Because, in addition, she was also in the army and was in charge of technology. The director realizes this very quickly and threatens her to stop trying something so stupid. At night, she wakes up due to strange sounds and investigates. There she finds Poe connected to a bunch of cables. As it turns out, he is not a human, or at least not completely. Karen is in shock, but there's something even worse, and that is, he was the son of a prisoner. The people from the fortress took the baby away and subjected him to various experiments to become what Poe is today. Our protagonist tries to keep calm and convinces him to have some alcohol. This was just a trap that leaves him unconscious. She uses that moment to head to the control room. She operates the computer and uses dream technology to help John get out of the zombie state. She creates a dream where she pulls him out of a well, and her plan seems to work. Poe wakes up before she finishes her mission. She quickly runs out to avoid suspicion from the director. But what she did was enough because John finally comes back. 4 months have passed since he was tortured, which means Karen is about to have the baby. He also discovers his wife now lives with Poe, intensifying his urgency to escape. John asks Bram to help him and keep him in touch with the woman, and when she finds out that her husband is okay, she sets out to help him. During the night, he steals a diamond from Poe that is actually a map of the prison. Meanwhile, John also wants to plan, but he only knows the chip is crucial. One of his roommates, who we'll call Glasses, tells him that he can help because he used to dismantle and build all kinds of machines. Mechanic, not explosives. After dismantling it, he discovers the parts that cause the pain and the explosion. So our protagonist asks him to find a way to remove the one inside him. Glasses explains to him that this is going to be very complicated because these chips are very sensitive and could explode at any moment. John tells him it doesn't matter and to keep looking until he finds a solution. His partner encourages him, promising they'll escape together afterwards. Meanwhile, Karen meets with Abraham and gives him the diamond. The woman convinces the man to help her after confessing that Poe never intended to give him his freedom and is merely using him despite his initial refusal. Abraham brings the diamond, and Zelda's 5 companions start to look at it to plan how John's escape will be. They were almost caught doing this, but thanks to our protagonist, nothing happens. The next day, Abraham returns the diamond at the exact moment so that Poe doesn't notice. The map was damaged, but the man takes responsibility to protect Karen from the director's anger. A.K. Pow asks the woman to divorce John, as he wants her to be in a real family. He's even going to ask for a permit so they can keep the baby. The worst part is that the director tries to convince her by telling her that if she does it, he will release John, and she only has 24 hours to give him an answer. Later, Gaffa is found. The chips can be removed using magnets, as the chips contain magnets themselves. Only that theory still needs to be tested. The bald man offers himself, provided that John helps him escape. Everything works perfectly, it's just a very painful process. John was next, but someone must remove his glasses chip, as he's the only one who understands how it functions. Abraham says he can do it if John takes it to him, but our protagonist refuses, haunted by a military mission where he lost all his men, and he's unwilling to relive that trauma. His companions urge him to escape, saying he's better off risking death than staying. And this is enough for him to agree to take them all, that is, Nino, Pilado, Bram, and glasses. Meanwhile, Poe is in his office drafting the letter to release John. The camera-controlling robot informs him that she witnessed Karen removing the map, which means the director didn't do his job well, since she also informs the authorities that 24 hours is going to be replaced. Simultaneously, the protagonists begin executing their plan, placing chips in pipes as they work. They pretend to fight, triggering the robot's anti-violence protocol and activating its chips. Of course, this was what they wanted, as this caused the pipe they were escaping through to explode. Quickly, Poe realizes that something is off and convinces the robot to let him run the prison again. He activates killer clones and fills the pipes with vapor, forcing the group to return. There, the bald man regrets and tries to surrender, but he is killed. The group manages to kill one of the androids, and thus they get a weapon to kill the others. On the other hand, Abraham was in Poe's office trying to take Karen away, but now that the director knows everything, he grabs the man and kills him. Meanwhile, the fight for our protagonists becomes increasingly complicated, but they get on a platform that takes them directly to the director's office and also hides them from the cameras. Finally, they arrive with Poe and point at him to threaten. There, John finds Abraham's body and knows Karen couldn't get away. He asks about his wife and shows that she is in the operating room, about to undergo a surgery where only the baby survives. Poe says John must surrender to save her, but he refuses. When he realizes his life is in danger, Paul tells the robot to cancel the surgery, but she ignores him and even kills him. Here, Antiojo realizes that she is the one who really controls the place, so she must be destroyed. Come in. Nino and John take him to the control room, and he enters a couple of codes to deactivate her. Just before they press the last key, some androids arrive and shoot him. Luckily, he stays alive long enough to destroy the robot and deactivate all the security of the place. After this, John tells Nino to find a truck so they can escape while he looks for Karen. Each one goes their own way, and our protagonist easily finds his wife. He takes her and they escape the fortress. At the last moment, the robot seemingly reactivates. But they leave anyway and don't stop driving until they cross the border. As they calm down, they get ready for Karen's delivery. But they have company. Nino steps away so the couple can have an intimate moment while they wait for the child. There, he realizes that the truck starts on its own. It starts to drive and kills him. John realizes and shoots it a couple of times until he sets it on fire. The problem with this is that the truck veers off and goes directly to where Karen was, blowing up the place. John is left completely alone, unable to accept the truth. He tries to look for his wife and children until he hears the crying of the child. He slowly approaches and finds Karen with a baby. Now at last he can be with the family he always longed for. That was The Fortress. Don't forget to hit like, comment on what other movies you want to see on the channel, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the upcoming videos.